Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shirtless Plantain Show, the white person edition. This is your host, Mitch. Uh, uh, we were given our own special punk theme song last week. I felt like we just call it what it is at this point. This is the white person edition. This is your host, Mitch. I'm here as always with Matheus. Hi, Matheus. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm doing good, Mitch. Adding the few drops of color to the show, just barely, just a little.
Yeah,
little
we've got a Brazilian here. It's not fully a white person edition.
I don't want to go into my background, but my my dad's mom is from Mexico, so
okay,
we're.
It's just me. It's just me then. Emily's also here. Hi, Emily. How are you?
I'm doing so well. I love the song. I'm all about it. So
I am not a big punk music fan, so I can't
really
say that I'm the biggest fan of the song.
Fun.
But
it's funny. It's like the play on the I don't know, Midwestern and easily.
We do 100% have to shout out Chigidi, the artist that did this. He's done all of our music, and holy shit, so fucking talented. I don't even recognize his voice in the one that was done for this show last week.
Incredible range.
As compared to what he's doing for the other editions. All of the versions that we have of these are all incredible. He is so talented. So need to shout him out, even though I'm admittedly not a huge punk guy.
It's not that punky, but I did think it was AI for a minute. I was like, did they plug in
no
white people, but
white people music into
it's really good.
Make a Shirtless Plantain Show theme that just sounds like it's a edition for white people. Yeah. And there we are.
What a success.
Well, let's get into the show by talking about two U.S. Women's National Team friendlies that happened this last week, both against Korea. One was in the great state of Colorado, one last night in Minnesota in a rainstorm.
A lesser state.
What?
I said a lesser state.
Yeah, well, because I'm hosting.
Yeah.
There was a timeline in which this edition goes differently. I'm talking about Minnesota. Let's start talking about the game in Colorado. The U.S. won 4-0. Swanson and Davidson braces, just like we drew it up. We all thought a center back was going to get 2 goals. First game of the Emma Hayes era. Emily, what'd you think?
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of people make sweeping statements, we're free. And I do think it was a really positive performance, a really good step forward. I felt like there was a lot of attacking freedom, which we haven't seen in the Blacko era since he got spooked at the Olympics. And like you said, Tierna Davidson, 2 goals. We used to be a set piece monster, and it wasn't just Julie Ertz, but I felt I guess, I don't know if the service hasn't been there. We just had a really bad set piece coach, but that was a welcome return to our play. Matheus, do you have something to say at that point?
Yeah, like I said, set pieces, proper country. Proper athletic footballing country. That's what we deserve.
Right. I mean, we've been playing with Lindsay Horan, and she should have been having way more goals from set pieces in this last several years. But yeah, so set piece goals, we saw them break down a low block, which that also we haven't seen. It's been all struggle flank play, the midfield has been such a struggle in the Blacko era. So it was just nice to see passes being completed. I think it was a 20 pass sequence for that goal between the one where Soph passed it for Pugh or Swanson running on. That was a really nice goal. So that was just an example of the different kinds of goals that we could score, and I think we saw a lot of we'll talk about the second game, but we saw a lot of transitional, like that potency as well. So it's nice that we have variety in the attack.
We'll get into the second game in a second, but there was a completely different lineup between the first and second game. I'm more inclined to lean towards the first game being kind of the A team in Emma Hayes' eyes.
I think it's exactly what that is. I think maybe
the one change I would make is Macario out and
Shaw
in. Yes.
I think that is the one point of like, or Rose, the three of them, like who's going to be in that position. And the great thing about the Olympics is that it's a very short turnover and that you need to like kind of chop and change a little bit. And that's a position where the three of them, I think each of them offer quality with those starters. I don't think there's a big drop off.
Yeah, for sure. I think when I was watching that game, Kat was probably the starter I was least impressed with. We won 4-0. It's like a very nitpicky kind of not impressed with her because I think that I think I was just more impressed with what I saw from Jaden Shaw and particularly Rose Lavelle coming on in the first game was so fucking good. Just fully on top of her game, vintage Rose Lavelle, like what we expect to see from her every single time she plays. And if she's playing like that, like I'm not complaining if she's starting at the Olympics, you know?
I'm never complaining if Rose is starting.
Yeah.
To be fair for Kat, I think that it's her first real time being healthy back with the national team. This is her first start, I think. I think it was a crazy number that they put up, like 700 days or something. So I think she definitely has had less time with this group than, Jaden or Rose has had. So, but yeah, if we're thinking about the Olympics, maybe then it's Jaden who starts just because she has had that time.
For sure. Well, it was a very comprehensive win in Colorado and really kicked off the era effectively with a 4-0 win. Obviously, I think it's interesting that we played two friendlies against the same opposition because, obviously we had a completely different lineup from game to game, but it was still, you're not getting as much variability. It's like we beat the South Korea team twice. The South Korean goalkeeper I thought was especially bad and stood out as very, very bad, especially like when I was literally in the stadium during the second half being like,
or during
the first half being like right there and it's like, oh man, yeah. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities where it definitely could have been better from the goalkeeper. So obviously a very good omen going into this era of U.S. Women's National Team. Before we go into the Minnesota game, I am gonna, to Emily's dismay, talk about Colorado for a second. Because I know she hates it when I do that. Dick's Sporting Goods Park does not fit 19,000 people, and 19,000 people were at this game. So I just want to use that. What?
I said code violation. Call them.
Well, they have temporary bleachers that they will add for games that have higher capacity, which is what they did for this game.
Those would be the seats my dad would be buying.
What?
Those cheap tickets.
Yeah, I had bought on like pre-sale one of like the cheaper tickets, and I still paid as much as I paid to go to Copa America for like nosebleeds in the USA Bolivia game.
That's USSF, baby. We love it. We love to market our girls and get the tickets at, how much you pay? Like, no, you don't have to.
Over $100 a ticket. I bought these tickets months ago. I don't exactly remember.
That's actually shocking.
Yeah. But
although it was really nice to see a full stadium because in the past couple of years I've been like, where the fuck is everybody?
So that's exactly my point. Is despite these ticket prices, despite any reason why people wouldn't go, which is, the playing a national team game at Dick's Sporting Goods Park presents the same optics for the Rapids playing games at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. It's hard to get to. It's in Commerce City. All of these reasons, and they packed it out. People people in Colorado care about women's soccer. You saw it with. I stop fucking rolling your eyes.
I'm not.
At this. Oh, you're in New York. Yeah, you can just
I've
have
never
a bunch of
said
people.
anything about.
Right.
Don't talk about where I live.
Well,
Go on.
Emily and I never talk about New York and Boston. It's only one state that gets love here.
I feel a need to fight for my team. Like the USL Super League announced their fucking teams, and like Chattanooga has a team, and we weren't a team.
Wonderful city, I hear. I have a friend.
Whatever. Like there's 2 Arizona teams. Like none of these things like make sense.
Yeah.
Colorado should have a professional women's team. We don't. And I think it's frustrating for me as someone who lives in Colorado and wants a team, a professional women's team, because I want a team to be able to root for. Like I do love watching NWSL and covering it on the show, but I wish that I had a team that I can truly root for, because I feel like as someone who's in a city that will likely get one at some point, it's frustrating to, like, because I can't just like, oh, I'm a Thorns fan, because it's not going to make any fucking sense when a team actually comes to Colorado, which if this game was any evidence, a team should and a team will. And I can't wait for that.
I would say I'm not anti NWSL to Denver. Put it in Denver. We want a team there. I'm just making fun of you.
Dial up all the Kroenke family. Dial up the Walmart family.
Exactly. Stan.
We
don't want the
in
Walmart
like the
family.
season, or like the Rapids fan email that was sent out at the end of last season, there was questions about.
So would you watch
interest.
women?
Yeah, like gauging
would you watch a
interest
women
of, like,
play?
how interested would you be if there was a professional women's soccer team in Denver?
That's interesting, actually.
Like, they're gathering data, at the very least, the Kroenkes and KSC in general.
Crunching those numbers.
That is a good sign, and this is physical evidence of people paying tickets to go see it. Obviously, it's a one-off national team game, so it's a little bit different than if there was an actual club team in Denver. But, just the amount of people that were willing to show up at the ticket prices that were being presented. There was a lot of kids at this game, a lot of families. It was a great time. It was a great environment. And I hope to be able to experience professional women's soccer in Denver very, very soon. That's not the national team.
Let's get Rapid Man a wife.
Exactly. Get Rapid Man a wife. That's our campaign.
I thought Rapid Man was Mitch, but
no, he's like the weird freak superhero that we have as like a mascot for the Rapids. He's like entirely blue. He's got sunglasses. He's a weird freak.
Why isn't he like a mountain?
And we need to get him a wife.
It's the Colorado Rapids. What do you mean?
What? Oh, right.
He's like made of water.
I don't know why. Whoa.
Moving on. Minnesota.
Yeah.
Game 2.
Let's get into Minnesota. The U.S. won 3-0 against Korea in Minnesota in a rainstorm. Complete different starting 11. So do we do think this is pretty much a B team outside of potentially Jaden Shaw?
Yeah, I think I think that Emma wanted to give these other players the opportunity to start and show what they can do. Obviously, it's going to be harder when it's a totally new 11, and a lot of these players haven't really played together. We saw Sam Staub get her first start. I guess Corbin Albert was in the midfield. So it's definitely, and we had Nicelonger started both games.
Yeah.
Oh, did she?
I definitely think that she'll be a starting left back, as crazy as that is. But and then we had Crystal playing. Well, we also played as a 3-back for at least the first, 60 minutes probably. So I also liked that I don't love like playing 3 at the back, but I like that we are trying different formations just because maybe we can't, like, we do have the versatile players that if we needed to against different opposition, maybe change things up. Like the most tweaking that Vlatko ever did was like put Emily Sonnet in a double pivot. So it's nice to see that we at least have a plan B to go to, or plan C, whatever. So yeah, I think that that first 11 is probably the one that is the starting, and then we're picking the rest of the 18 from this group.
For sure. And this is not a bad group to pick from at all. Like, they won 3-0.
No.
Crystal Dunn scored in this game as more of a forward. And then after we brought on Sophia Smith and Trinity Rodman and Mal Swanson, we scored again through Sophia Smith. But I think the biggest talking point from this game is obviously Lily Johannes, who made her U.S. Women's National Team debut and scored on her U.S. Women's National Team debut. It was a nice goal, but my favorite play that she made the entire game was the pass to Trinity Rodman, which is like incredible weighted pass. And it's okay that you're a fucking serious player. And we need to make sure that we don't let the Netherlands get their hands on her.
Her first touch as well was like really sick. And I think I said when the roster was named, I was like, what's the rush on this kid, you know? I had never watched her play either, so I wasn't really speaking from a lot of knowledge, but I do see the the rush here, and I think that we saw from like the celebrations from her teammates that like how much they're aware, I think, of how important it is to treat her properly and to support her, because we want her to pick us. She talked to Sam Mewis recently about like this decision that she's making, and she was basically like, I'm not in a rush to make it. I think Paris is going to be too early for her. But I think bringing her as an alternate will say a lot about like what our plans are for her in the future.
Yeah, and I mean, I heard a rumor about potentially the Olympic roster increasing, and if that happens, maybe she'll have a chance to make it.
I feel like before that even, I mean, I don't think it's going to, for this, I don't think it's going to. They already made that decision.
The Canadian coach was saying that she heard like a rumor about roster increases. I don't know if that's going to be for this Olympics or for the future, but it would be more than beneficial for not only just depth purposes, but also just player safety if it was higher than 18 in such a crammed together tournament, especially.
Yeah. I hope so, that they did that last time because of COVID. And I just think like they're increasing the Euro men's like rosters to 26 players. And I know that's UEFA that's making that decision, but it's just like, why can't it's so more beneficial for everybody? Like, why are we trying to kill these players?
Yeah.
Why can't we just bring 23 players? But honestly, before the roster change, I feel like it's the U23 is going to be the future. I just feel like the winds are changing there.
For sure. Matheus, did you have something?
No, I mean, I don't know. I'm not too worried about Johannes picking the Netherlands. Like, I know there's that rhetoric. I'm not going to rush to make a decision, but she seems pretty embedded on this team. And let's be real, like who's backing up Sam Coffey? Like, what is the depth chart looking back there, right? And I think she's a pretty, like, she's young, she's 16 still, but like if anyone's going to be that sort of that backup, like she's already on a short list at her age. So I think it's not like we're like a predatory calf tying her, or like she's never going to get game time for us. It's clearly not the case. So so yeah, I'm not worrying about the dual nat panic or anything like that with her personally. I don't know about you guys, but
yeah, I mean, just being a part of multiple camps is gonna like help her decision. Like, she's spent time now on 2 different camps with these players, and will be able to like actually have these relationships to like build off of, the like not be just a stranger to what the U.S. women's national team setup is prior to actually making some sort of decision. She now has that kind of information. Is there anything else we wanted to discuss from this game?
I do kind of want to talk about the roster a little bit.
Okay, great.
Because this is after this, there's no more games before Emma picks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that most of them are pretty easy to pick. And then I get to 17, 18. And it's okay, there's 3 players that stick out. Casey Kruger, who I would take, but this is just a question of, I guess, in Emma's mind. Casey Kruger, Corbett Albert, Alex Morgan is basically 3 players for 2 spots in my mind. If you don't take Corbett Albert, it is a little bit light in the midfield. But are you not taking Alex Morgan? Even though maybe she's not in the best form, even though her showing on Tuesday wasn't the best, she brings a lot more off the pitch. And there's, without, Becky Sauerbrunn there, you are missing a bit of that leadership. So that's just, I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that.
I mean, we've talked a bit about Alex Morgan in the past, and I've flip-flopped a little bit, from the World Cup until, a couple weeks ago, being, I was pretty against her still being in the picture, but now I would like her to still be in the picture. I haven't done the full math in my head of, what the roster looks like with her, without her, but I think if the spot's open for her, we should have her, mostly because of what you said, the off-field stuff I feel is so important, having that kind of leadership presence, but also someone who is by no means a bad player, regardless of the kind of form that she's in. She wasn't great in the game yesterday, but I don't really care. We know what kind of player Alex Morgan is. It's not like she's this relative unknown. She's been around for a long time. So someone like Sam Staub, who was making her first U.S. Women's National Team start, it was trying to make way more of a impression than someone's okay, Alex Morgan, you didn't play great, but we know who you are. We know what kind of player you are.
Yeah, there were, I wouldn't look at, I'm pretty sure the decision's probably been made. I think it would have taken something extreme probably to change anyone's mind at this point. I do think there are pundits who are well, she didn't play great, so I don't know. But when I was putting it together, I was this is a question. Just because it putting her there would leave you elsewhere. But I don't know. It's really tough.
To me, it's the Olympics are now. Let's not do anything fucking crazy. Let's wait another year. Next World Cup cycle, let's get frisky. Maybe Alex can, loses her spot slowly as the team evolves, creates a new leadership core, and Alex
this is already gonna be the end of the road, no matter what.
For sure.
That's my view.
Matheus, you do mention the new leadership core, and there was a couple of moments after Lindsey Horan was not on the field wearing the armband. And in the first game, Naomi Girma wore the captain's armband, which looked very correct. And Crystal Dunn wore it after Horan came off in the second game. But I want to focus more on Naomi Girma. We've talked a little bit about this, who is kind of next to be U.S. Women's National Team captain. I think it says a lot that in Emma Hayes' first match that the armband went to Girma after Horan went off. And I just think it looked right. Captain Girma just absolutely works.
No, lock it down. That's an ink to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from everything that I've heard, obviously we only see what we see from them, which is short, maybe blips from press stuff and how they're on the field and whatever social media stuff that we see. But I think everyone talks about her being a leader, no matter if she has the armband or not. She's worn it for club too. I think that after Lindsay, she's mine.
100%. and that's very, very exciting for the future of the national team. Well, a great 7-0 on aggregate for the national team against Korea.
What a tie.
Let's move on now to before we get into MLS, the CONCACAF Champions Cup final was this weekend. So Columbus did not play in MLS, but also I think they barely played in Pachuca. They lost 3-0. Matheus, what'd you think from this match?
I mean, it was pretty apparent pretty early that this was kind of going to be ugly. That's, Pachuca got a goal really quickly off Salomon Rondon, then almost had another one where he shoved Rudy Camacho in the back, was called back after a foul. We don't even have to talk about the game. Pachuca just kind of ran away with it. It came out after the game that Columbus was having the shits all weekend, the entire team. They considered forfeiting the day prior.
I didn't know that.
It's like, yeah, that's what's been reported, is that they had a team meeting, considered forfeiting on the Saturday.
I mean, the way
just
they
happens,
played,
right? Like, it's a symptom of altitude sickness. They were training for it all week. There was videos of them, with little bags, going crazy on the stationary bikes, and they were sleeping in altitude 10. So they were trying to get used to it. But yeah, it just, I don't know. This one-legged final away from home, which is kind of bullshit too, by the way, because it wasn't announced that it would be like it was a one-legged final all the way, but it wasn't announced whether it would be neutral site or the best performing club in the prior stages until Inter Miami got knocked out. And they were like, all right, it's not going to be Las Vegas. It'll be the best performing club. So I got a feel for them, right? I don't think they got the fair shot that they wanted, but they got played off the pitch, and it wasn't even close. And Salomon Rondon looked about twice the size of Rudy Camacho. So I think it's Pachuca's 6th continental title or something crazy like that. They're a club with a lot of heritage. Even they don't have like the big fan base that America or Chivas has. But 3-0 the result. Could have been way more. Could have been way more. You got to feel for them. I think they can rebound from this and they continue on the rest of the season, but it's pretty disappointing from them. They look pretty heartbroken.
Yeah, I think the beginning of the game, Columbus kind of came out firing. Like they nearly scored like 15 seconds in this game. If they do that, I think it's a completely different competition. But 100% Pachuca looked just more comfortable. They're playing at home. They're playing in front of the home's fans. They're used to the altitude. Salomon Rondon, who I didn't even know played for Pachuca, a name I have not heard in years, had a fucking game. He was really, really good. And Columbus kind of just didn't have an answer for someone like that big and physical. And it was a really impressive performance from Pachuca. Unfortunate for Columbus that they were, sick going into this. But like with any conversation, when an MLS team gets knocked out of a continental competition, it's always going to come down to, it's because of MLS roster rules this is happening. Columbus has a bigger wage bill than Pachuca. Like Pachuca is not like a massive team that's like spending a shit ton of money, and they got it done. It comes down to, I think, more about like where this game was being played more than anything of where Columbus lost, but also just like clearly they weren't at full fitness, and that's just gonna happen. That's just kind of how things happen sometimes. I think Columbus got a little bit unlucky, but that is not to take away how good of a performance it was from Pachuca. I think they were very
and
good.
they, like you said, Mitch, they don't have a huge wage bill. They're a team that's known for getting their academy prospects and putting them in the team throughout the competition. They did that during the Champions Cup, during the Apertura. And they're a team also that I think struggled with their head coach. I don't know exactly their story, but they had kind of a down season, stuck with their head coach, knowing that they had Champions Cup, they had like a solid roster. So like they, Mexican season is a two-part season. It goes up and down, right? The 2 half seasons. And they stuck with their coach throughout this competition, despite a down year domestically or down half season domestically. And they have a lot of good players, man. Eric Sanchez is another player that had a really good game, had a few chances on goal, Mexican national team player. I don't know, man. It is what it is. Yeah, I hope that Columbus gets another chance just for their sake. I hope that the next final is a neutral site instead of a neutral site can be in Mexico too at like Azteca or whatever. But I don't want to get away from the one leg final because I thought it was cool that they did it at the same day as the Champions League final. I thought that was kind of sick actually, just to have it on the same day. Be like, no, this is as important. This is our continental competition. Like this, let's make this a big thing. I thought that was a really cool scheduling trick. So not two legs. I know that's kind of fun for it to be home and away, but yeah, no, I'm excited for future editions to be more fucking competitive in this one because I kind of like tuned out after like 60 minutes. I'm like, yeah, this is like nowhere near.
It was kind of sad. It was like, especially after learning the, diarrhea of it all. Like, you just felt bad for them.
100%. Tough one for Columbus. Emily, do you have anything else before we move on?
Only to add that, the men's CONCACAF Champions League Cup or whatever the fuck it is over. But tomorrow, June 6th, they're drawing for the women's groups. So that's very exciting, particularly for me, because it's going to determine, where I vacation. But
did you say it's groups?
So it's 2 groups of 5. Oh. They're going to play. Each team plays 4 games, 2 at home, 2 away, and then the top 4? I don't know if there's quarter. I think there might just be semifinals. So I think the top 4 go to a semifinal. I don't think there's quarterfinals. So yeah, cool. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
That'll be very fun.
Yeah, that's interesting just because they swapped away from groups on the men's side to make it just a straight bracket this year. So anyway.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's get into MLS. We're going to start with a pretty interesting game where both teams went down to 10 men. Philly drew Montreal 2-2. Emily, what'd you think?
I think that neither of these teams wanted to win this game. Just like after each of them got the lead, like they just did some stupid shit. Montreal scored within the first minute of this game, really nice, and then it got pretty chippy. There were a lot of really unnecessary challenges going on at the end of the half, and Lazador threw an elbow. He gets sent off right before halftime. We come back. Philly's really capitalizing on their numerical advantage. They're putting Montreal under a lot of pressure. Draw a penalty. Although the ball was, this is a debate, but the ball is going directly out of play. There's no chance that they're going to be able to make a play on this ball. Which, in my opinion, I'm it was.
I think it's a penalty. I think I think Carranza gets the ball and he just fully gets wiped out. Or sorry, it's Gazdag, not Carranza, but I think he gets to the ball's potentially going out of bounds, but the goalkeeper fully wipes out Daniel Gazdag to where I think that is a penalty.
I guess. I'm just if a ball's not playable, what's the point? But whatever. He obviously scores. They score again right after that. And then
that Uar goal to make it 2-1. Really nice. He just drops the defender on his ass. It's sick.
Really nice finish, too. And then fucking Jack Elliott goes into a tackle with his studs. And then they're down to 10 men. And then Montreal, off of a set piece, they equalize. So it's just both of them.
Was it from the ensuing set piece? From the red card?
Yes. Wait. I think so.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And that makes it even more hurtful.
It's all just the freaking what's the music? Curb Your Enthusiasm music. Just idiocy. But I mean both of these teams have won one game in their last 10 games. So not great showings past few months from either of them.
Yeah, Philly's a weird one for me because I want to believe in them because they have such a significant amount of talent, but then they just are so fucking unserious sometimes that I don't know with them. I still don't know how to gauge them. And I feel like in June in the MLS, most of the time you're able to kind of put a finger on the pulse with a lot of teams of like, okay, I kind of know what your deal is. And I can't really do that with Philly.
It's just not a lot of depth, right? It's just not, whenever they have to rotate somebody in, it's like kind of gets pretty ugly.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I feel about Philly. Like, whenever they have to move away from Carranza, like Carranza didn't start this game, didn't play this game, they're bringing on Bedoya, and like when you go chase a game, you need more talent off the bench, and it's just not.
I don't know.
Not something they really have in their locker.
You still have like a lot of talent on the field. It's not like this is a team just entirely built around Julian Carranza. Like you have Uwe who scored a great goal in this game. You have Gazdag who scored a goal in this game. You have Quinn Sullivan. Like you have a lot of quality players. Kai Wagner is really good. Like you have so much quality in this team that one player going down shouldn't make you as unserious as Philly has seemed to be. Yeah,
but like, you're like Mikael Lord. Let's compare it to like say like the Galaxy, right? Who's bringing all this talent? Like, is your second option like or like Gabriel Pet, for example? Like, there's levels to this, right? Like, there's like what you can get on. Is good on the budget. Gostak is good on the budget, but like, are they going to flip the league over? No.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, to be fair, this was a team that was in the MLS Cup final like a couple years ago, and faces of the team haven't changed all that much. Like they are, a lot of the core pieces are still there. But I think that they have a really good coach. I think that they can get their shit together, which is why I'm still like not giving up on them in any way. But I think it's an interesting conversation.
I mean, they're like in ninth or something like that. It's not like over for them.
Yeah, and that's like almost a playoffs. That's basically a playoff spot. Because our playoff system makes no sense. All right, let's move on now to Miami 3, St. Louis 3. And before I throw to you, Matheus, I want to say real quick that Chris Durkin had a great game for St. Louis. And as a byproduct of like this new format that we've been doing where we haven't talked about every single game in U.S. soccer, I feel like St. Louis has been a team that we haven't talked about as much. And we've talked about DC a lot. Jared Stroud has been really good this year, and we talked about him and Durkin being that trade during the offseason. And here we are, Durkin's playing against Inter Miami and having a fucking great game. But what do you think about this 3-3, Matheus?
I mean, it started off with MLS goal of the week by Chris Durkin, hitting one of the weirdest shots I've ever seen because it's like across his body. It's almost like when like a quarterback is like running the same side, like in like throws in a weird way, like across. Like I don't know how he got that shot off, and he puts it perfectly across his body. So 1-0 up to St. Louis City, and then Inter Miami's goals. Every goal Inter Miami scores this season, it feels like, is like Messi walks up the middle of the field. He's surrounded by 3 guys. He passes it wide to Alba because he's wide open. He's surrounded all of a sudden. They went narrow to man Messi. And then 3 guys forget about Messi, and he's just like wide open at the top of the box. Like he doesn't. It's not like he made a crazy move or anything. They're just like, oh, Messi doesn't have the ball anymore. We can forget about him. Or he just strokes it in from the top of the 18 to tie it up. The next goal is like, okay, Messi walks up, passes it to Alba again. We can't forget about Messi. But then Suarez is at the back post, and also his center back just like falls flat on the ground and face plants right before the ball gets to him. So I don't know, like very, very simple for Inter Miami just to walk these goals in from St. Louis City. But counter pressing gets the thing done. Indiana Vasilev scores off of a turnover in the Miami's own half. Doesn't celebrate because he's a former Inter Miami player, which I found very funny too, because like, buddy, no one remembers you. Like, not to be mean, but no one remembers anything about this club pre-2022. Like, do you remember Blaise Matuidi was at this club? They got fined because they try to pay money on their table to Matuidi. Like, you can celebrate Indiana, it's okay. But then it finishes 3-3. Goals by Suarez, had a little own goal moment, and Alba to tie late. which was kind of crazy. He ran the entire length of the field, was almost offside, chipped it over Roman Berkey. A really good game. St. Louis, I would say a bit lucky to get a point away from home.
Really?
I thought
Really?
like talented, deserved it, but I thought Miami had the brunt and the better chances. They scored. St. Louis scored from turnovers in their own half. That Chris Durkin screamer, and then off a corner, the Suarez own goal was in a corner sort of fumble situation. So,
I think that my perception of it was there was a couple really good St. Louis chances when they were up 3-2 that I felt like could have fully put the game away that they didn't capitalize on. Like, I think Miami had a lot of great chances, especially after it became 3-3. I think Miami had like some really good chances to win this game. But I do think St. Louis should have put it away. I don't think they were lucky to be in that position.
Lucky is like not an overstatement, but like, are you like what chances are we looking at here? I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember the specific chance that happened when they were
because Marcelo,
up 3-2,
through my watch of the game, like Marcelo Wygon had a bunch of chances coming from right back as well, swooping in. Like that whole Messi walking up sequence, passing the fullback, was happening all the goddamn time.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I took away from it. Like the St. Louis counter press was like kind of like ripping balls in and hoping Jean Claude gets to the end of it and heads it in. I guess it doesn't move me. I guess
I think that's fair. But there was, I think St. Louis's second goal was a very just like I want to say vintage, but they've been in the league like a year and a half. But like it's like this omen where if you're watching highlights of a St. Louis game and the highlight starts with the other team passing it around their back line, you know something terrible is going to happen and St. Louis is going to score. Like, it happens so often where they're like, it happens enough to where I'm willing to give them credit of like, hey, your press is really good. Like, if you're making the other team fuck up enough passing out of the back, then clearly you're doing something right with your press, and that's how they got their second goal. They are like, I think they deserve this result, but I think they honestly could have won this. But let's move on now to another game, DC 2, Toronto 2. Emily, what do you think?
This is a really interesting game. First half, it was like basically all Toronto.
Yep.
They kept finding Bernadeschi on the right in space. They were really good at, just making a few passes, cutting through bypassing the midfield really to get into DC's final third. But yeah, Bernadeschi for the assist early on to Etienne, and then the second goal comes directly for him. And I thought it was really nice. He pulled back kind of like he was going to slaughter across the box again, and then just took it himself. And it basically took those goals for DC to like get into the match at all. That's when they started really finding tempo, started getting their own chances. And then the second half was like so lifeless, so dull, no energy, to the point, especially from DC, to the point where I was like, is this a tactic? Are they playing dead to like lull Toronto into a sense of like safety and like, all right, we can just pass the ball around and like, this is cool, we've got 2 goals. And DC scores basically out of nowhere, and it starts to become a game. And I think with the brain cells that told him it was a good idea to get cornrows for Dusky, it also told him to kick the ball away while he was on a yellow card.
Matheus?
I was gonna say, like, it seemed like he bleached his cornrows in between the last game and this one. I don't know if the bleach got to his like a subcranial sort of area there.
It, yeah.
So
I don't
bad
know if
choices.
I caught him with the cornrows before, but I was like, wow. The bleach blonde definitely makes it more severe, I do have to say. Yeah. But yeah, that yellow card, or 2 yellows, sorry, sent off. It just puts Toronto under a whole bunch of pressure. They come and foul in the box, and that makes them down to 9, because that was a second yellow as well. And Click puts it away for 2-2, and Toronto's just like,
Yeah.
Totally. Although the XG story, I think, tells you that DC was like creating those more chances anyway.
Yeah, I think Toronto just sat back a little bit too much after going up 2-0 because they were just absolutely cutting DC apart in the first half. Like the through balls that they were sending to Bernadeschi, who seemed to be wide open on the right every single time, was like there's nothing DC was doing to stop these. And then they went up 2-0 and just kind of absorbed pressure and went down to 9 men. And it wasn't a great tactic, as it turns out, to go down to 9 men.
I do think that probably DC like fixed themselves so that, you know, that space wasn't available for Bernadeschi, you know, the same way in the second half. But yeah, Toronto, like their best defense probably would have been like attacking more still.
For sure.
And I was going to say Benteke also was taken out early, so they made this comeback without him even.
That's even more impressive from DC. Let's move on now to another 2-2 game. Portland 2, Houston 2. The ending of this game, particularly, Matheus, was very crazy. Multiple crossbars were hit. Both teams wanted winners badly. Neither team got winners. What'd you think?
Yeah, like this game, Mitch, started out pretty calm, right? An early finish by Houston. Kowalczyk takes a corner, puts it across the face of goal. And then Felipe Mora, that's right, that's his name, scores on a breakaway. Cabecita Rodriguez squares it. He has a wide open net, taps it in. This first half was a bit more even. That the game plans kind of went the way they usually do with these two teams. Houston possessing the ball, lots of intricate sort of play, trying to break down the middle of the field. Portland has kind of gotten in the rhythm where Phil Neville doesn't really want to coach them, so he just sends them to hunker and counter. Fair enough, go ahead. But towards the end of this game, Houston goes up 2-1 through a Carrasquilla. Nice little finish across the face of goal again, far post. And then Nathan Fogassa, a guy who's been bumping around Timbers 2 for a long time, Brazilian guy, scores a flying header of really jumps up and kind of dunks on everybody. Celebrates by like pointing to the back of his shirt and like jumping up like a little alien. But towards the end of the game, like you said, Evander hits the crossbar. I forget who hits the crossbar for Houston. Lots of long shots. I think Portland had the crowd really behind them. Like Providence Park was bumping, which I haven't heard it bump like that in a long time.
Since the Thorns game, probably.
Since the Thorns game, probably, yeah. But a lot of pressure being applied. I think Houston had their shots, but Portland with Evander hitting the crossbar off a corner as well. They hit the crossbar again. Tarbell's goal was under a lot of pressure. But they didn't get it done. 2-2. I don't think it was a super unfair result because Houston had a lot of really nice moments of intricate play, like they always do. I think Carrasquilla was having a really nice game in this one. But Reynolds' team couldn't really pull it out. I don't know. I would be pretty pleased with the point away from home for them. Portland has some work to do. I thought Cabecita Rodriguez, their new transfer from, was it Club America he came over from? Monterrey, Mexico, somewhere? I don't know. He looks like he's settling in really well. It's not a super sexy style of play. He's just like a winger who just kind of is like stronger than most and like not a super not going to beat you for pace. Not the world's craziest dribbler, but just like a hardworking guy. And he seemed like he had a really good game. 1 assist, created a lot of opportunities. I think starting to have more of a rapport with Evander. So I think things are looking up on that front for Portland, though.
Yep, for sure. Let's move on now to Vancouver 2, Colorado 1. Not a great result for my Rapids.
No.
But I gave Zach Steffen a lot of praise like about a month ago because he had a couple good games. He lost us this game. It was a very, very unserious goalkeeping performance. And now a run of unserious goalkeeping performances. His underlying stats are not pretty by any means. He's just flat out been not good. He's had a couple games that I can point to and be like, yeah, those were good Zach Steffen performances. But I think overarchingly he has not been a significant upgrade that was expected over Marco Ilic. And especially when you're bringing in a big name guy, the former starter for the U.S. national team, like you need to be expecting more from him, and he's not providing that right now. And I think is the reason we lost this game. We rotated a lot. Like Bombito didn't start. I think Bassett did start, but like Navarro didn't start. That we rotated a lot going into this game. A lot of our bigger named guys came on later. Jordan Mahalovich scored a nice goal. It was a decent performance away from home with a rotated team, but like it was not enough to get it done. I think the bottom line that I can overarchingly say about this team is that they look tired, which isn't a great sign for June. But I think is also a byproduct of the system that we're playing. Like they talked about on the broadcast, like Cole Bassett's covered more distance than any other player in MLS. And yeah, that makes sense. He's pressing a lot. He's like running a lot. And a lot of our players on our team are doing that, which makes sense that they'd be a little bit tired at this point of the season. Reports are that we're getting the team is not training this week, entire week's off, because there's no games next weekend. They can get back to training next week, get a full week of rest, before starting onto the second half of the season. I think it'll get interesting when potentially Bombito's away for Copa America. Bassett's on the Olympic preliminary roster, so there's a good chance he makes the Olympics. We could be losing some of our bigger named guys for a little bit of time, which is a thing that a lot of teams are dealing with. Like Miami's not going to have Messi for 5 games. This is a problem that a lot of teams are going to have to overcome. And it'll be interesting to see how we kind of manage the squad during that time. If we see any change of system, like that NYCFC game, we played more of a 4-4-2, and it was really, really effective, and we haven't seen it since. Because there's just a lot of, I think, lineup puzzle pieces that we haven't really been able to solve. Connor Ronan coming back from injury, as talented of a player as he is making everything more complex because the midfield we were playing of Laraz, Bassett, Mihalovic was working really well, but now we kind of feel obligated to play last season's player of the season, like actually play him, and fair, because he's a really good player, but none of these players have really been deemed droppable, and then potentially wanting more defensive stability, so maybe bringing in like a more defensive midfielder. But again, it's this hard puzzle piece of like we have too many midfielders right now to be able to like properly build it in the way that we want to. I'm by no means worried about Colorado long term, but this was not a good game, not a good performance. Hopefully this rest is going to be very big for this team, because we're going to need it if we want to like be a playoff team like I've been touting us to be the entire season.
Yeah, Mitch, I think you hit on something really key, and that's the like a defensive midfielder, a 6 of, not like, it doesn't have to be like a single pivot, but like a defensive midfielder of some rapport, or some, like a good player coming in and filling in that spot next to Bassett and kind of claiming it as their own. Connor Ronan's great. Laraz has been good this season. That's all great, but neither of those guys are going to be like stamp your ground defenders. And look at the other side for Vancouver. Andres Cubas is kind of that guy, has a reputation as being a solid defender in MLS in midfield. That's going to be something that's going to take the team from like just like being okay in the playoffs to having a chance to challenge in the West. I think that's like when you look at the roster, that's like the standout piece that's missing. So
yeah, I mean, we have like a couple like actual 6s. Jasper Loffelson has played like a little bit here and there. He started some games. We haven't looked as defensively secure as I would have expected to see with him. And then we have Lamine Diac, who is on loan from Nantes in France. The loan ends like end of July, and he's played under 100 minutes. There's no fucking way that he becomes a permanent transfer. And more than likely, we're going to be looking for another 6 in this window. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Emily, did you have something before we move on?
I was going to say, what does this mean for the Rocky Mountain Cup?
Nothing, because it's Vancouver.
Oh. Is there mountains? I thought they were involved. Sorry, my bad.
No, it's
cut
just us and RSL.
Can we cut this out?
Just cut this out. Cut that question out.
I don't just look stupid.
No, it's just us and RSL for the Rocky Mountain Cup.
There's
you
Rocky think of the Mountain. There's the Cascadia with like Portland, Seattle.
Well, I know what that is.
Well, that's the
one Vancouver's involved in with. Cascadia.
Yeah, it's Portland, Vancouver.
That's where they are.
Yeah, but like, all right, okay.
All right. Well, anyway, let's move on now to the last game we're covering this week, which is Charlotte 3, Atlanta 2. I feel like there's way more things off the field that are more interesting to talk about with this game, because this is now the game that Gonzalo Pineda finally got fired from Atlanta United, which I personally think is a long time coming at this point, because I think this roster is too talented to be where they have been. And everything's kind of falling apart for Atlanta. Giacomakis is more than likely going to Mexico. They just fired their coach. Almada has been rumored to be leaving for a while. Matheus, what do you kind of make about Atlanta's situation at this junction?
I think this game was kind of indicative of the whole situation, because it seemed like all of the offensive thrust of this game had to go through Almada, right? Sabalo Janize is nice, but he's not. He shouldn't be your second option in this league. Giacomakis was off the bench because he's coming back from injury. Played, I think, 7 or 10 minutes midweek. Had 30 minutes at the end of this game. But it's like Almada carrying the entire weight of this roster, scoring early, and then nothing's really helping him on the other side. They brought on Xande Silva in the end of the second half. Things kind of floated along for a little bit, but Charlotte comes out with 3 points with 2 gorgeous goals from the Alabada, by the way, 2 rockets from the Alabada. But yeah, so let's start here. Gonzalo Pineda gone. The team's really struggled. I think Miles Robinson leaving was a huge blow in the offseason. They brought in Gregerson. He's been on and off hurt, got hurt again this game. But they, their whole issue the past couple seasons has been playing from the back to midfield, right? Once they get the ball in the final third in Almada's feet and they have enough talent there to make something happen in the final third. But that transition from defense to midfield has been bad, awful for a long time. And it hasn't changed. And there's only one place where you can point with that. They've brought in new players. They brought in Luis Abrams, who's supposed to be a good ball playing center back. Gregerson's a DP center back, which is not common in this league. Luyumbo has been here for a season now in midfield, and that connection just hasn't happened. So it's about time. Their announcement on Twitter, I noticed that Atlanta United decided to part ways with head coach. And I'm like, that's a real fucking hateful. When you don't even say the guy's name, that's like real spiteful. So doesn't seem like good terms there. And now you're selling potentially Giacomakis to Cruz Azul in Mexico. They bought Giacomakis for $4.5 million this time last year. Mm-hmm. The rumor is the current bid is 10, and that hasn't been approved yet or denied yet, but that'd be $6 million worth of profit for a guy who's already 29, and you're not winning this season anyway. So, I mean, business is business. If I'm an Atlanta fan, I'd be fine making that sale, because, like, what are you going to do, right? You're just going to, maybe rock up to the 8th seed in the East and lose in the first round. You might as well take the profit. And then, it's the question of Almada, right? Does he want to stay there long term? Does he have offers in Europe? The rumored sort of market value he's at is 23 and change million. Does anyone actually want to pay that, or is that just the sort of gossip? We'll see. The summer window's opening up. I haven't heard any specific rumors with him, but that's obviously always been the goal for Atlanta United, is to move him on for a big number, and to a big club too in Europe to get that sort of rep up, as well as Caleb Wiley, right? He's also valued at something like 10 or 13 million now by various sources. Does anyone actually want to pay that? Or is he going to sign a bigger contract? Or is Atlanta going to give him a bigger contract because that left back who wants to spend money on a left back, right? Wage-wise. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things up in the air for Atlanta United. I think a lot of it rests on whoever they appoint as the new manager and their relationship with the front office. That's always been really rocky. Ever since the first season where Tata Martino wasn't really even speaking with Carlos Bocanegra. So yeah, I know there's a lot of things up in the air. I don't think this Atlanta team's really poised to succeed in the back half of the season. I wouldn't be surprised the locker room's a bit sour right now. We'll see what happens going forward, Mitch.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's interesting conversations to be had about Charlotte as well off the field, because it was rumored that like they have Marco Royce's discovery rights, but now it's looking more likely that Marco Royce is going to be an LA Galaxy player, which I don't think we really have time today to really delve into like that potential fit, but that would be very, very interesting. What seems like a likely incoming transfer for Charlotte is Tim Ream, which Tim Ream is 36. He had a down year for Fulham, had some issues staying healthy. It wouldn't surprise me if this is kind of a good time for him to come to MLS, and I think that's like a good kind of presence that you want if you're Charlotte, because I fucking love Tim Ream. Like, I love that guy so much. So, like, him coming to MLS would be, I think, great. He's had an illustrious career at Fulham. He's probably, like, a Fulham legend at this point because of just longevity. He's won Player of the Seasons. He's part of, like, multiple teams that have gotten promoted. So, I think that would be a great signing for Charlotte. You guys...
I was going to say a great fit, too. He'd be playing next to Juso Malanda, who's Cape Verdean, I'm assuming, French center back, who I think was at Charlotte, too, last season. And this season, they're like, we're getting offers from him in Europe, like, soon. He's 22. He's playing on the right side of the fence. If Tim Ream comes and plays on the left, got the old head, got the young guy who's still probably going to have another year at Charlotte unless they sell him for big money. So I think that'd be a good leadership position for Charlotte to have, and playing at the back in Dean Smith's system, they definitely want to develop that. So,
yeah, for sure. Before we get out of here, I want to throw to you, Emily, to yell at Nashville FC really quickly because we're at an hour. We got to get out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Yell at Nashville FC for embarrassing themselves in front of Julian Baker.
Nashville FC, how dare you invite Julian Baker, a national treasure, an artist whose music can both take me into depression and take me out and out of depression. Yeah, in and out. How dare you invite her to present the game ball and have her fucking shred on the guitar, really sick, by the way, and then not get a result for her against New England? You can't beat New England. Disrespectful, homophobic, and Julian Baker deserves better.
And there you have it. I think that's a great note for us to end on. That's all for us this week. You guys know what to say.
Peace.
Peace.
Take your shirt off. Take your shirt off.